Imagine a world where the unthinkable happens, and NATO launches a surprise attack on Russia. The consequences would be catastrophic, but is this scenario a distant possibility or a dire reality? The escalating tensions between NATO and Russia have reached a boiling point, with the two superpowers engaging in a war of words and military buildup. As we delve into the world of modern geopolitics, it's essential to understand the complexities of this delicate balance. The annexation of Crimea in 2014 marked a significant escalation in tensions, a move that would have far-reaching consequences for global stability. Since then, the situation has only grown more volatile. The increasing presence of NATO troops in Eastern Europe has led to a significant increase in military spending by Russia, setting the stage for a potential conflict. But what exactly triggered this chain of events? To understand the catalyst for chaos, we need to look back at the early 2000s, when Russia's actions in Chechnya sparked widespread criticism from the international community. The subsequent war in Georgia in 2008 and Russia's subsequent occupation of Abkhazia and South Ossetia further strained relations with the West. Fast forward to 2014, when pro-Russian President Viktor Yanukovych was ousted in Ukraine, paving the way for a new government that sought closer ties with the European Union. This move was met with resistance from Russia, which saw it as a threat to its own influence in the region. In response, Russia annexed Crimea, a move that would have severe consequences for the international community. The annexation of Crimea sent shockwaves around the world, with many viewing it as a brazen attempt by Russia to expand its territorial control. But what was the real motivation behind this move? Some argue that it was a strategic attempt to secure a vital naval base and gain access to the Black Sea. Others claim that it was a calculated move to expand Russia's sphere of influence in the region. Whatever the motivation, the consequences of the annexation were far-reaching. Economic sanctions were imposed on Russia, and diplomatic relations with the West deteriorated significantly. The situation in Ukraine continued to deteriorate, with pro-Russian separatists clashing with Ukrainian government forces in the eastern regions. The conflict dragged on for years, resulting in thousands of deaths and widespread destruction. As the situation in Ukraine continued to deteriorate, NATO responded by increasing its military presence in Eastern Europe. The deployment of troops and military equipment to countries such as Poland and the Baltic states was designed to demonstrate a commitment to collective defense and deter any potential aggression from Russia. But Russia saw this as a provocation, and its military buildup in response was swift and significant. The increasing presence of NATO troops in Eastern Europe has led to a significant increase in military spending by Russia, setting the stage for a potential conflict. The situation is now more volatile than ever, with tensions between NATO and Russia at an all-time high. But what would happen if the unthinkable were to happen, and NATO were to launch a surprise attack on Russia? The consequences would be catastrophic, with the potential for widespread destruction and loss of life. As we continue to navigate the complex landscape of modern geopolitics, it's essential to understand the potential consequences of a conflict between NATO and Russia. The stakes are high, and the risks of miscalculation are real. In our next section, we'll delve into the potential consequences of such a conflict and explore the implications for global stability. As we explore the implications of a NATO-Russia conflict, let's take a closer look at what the first 72 hours might look like. This is a critical period where the stakes are high, and the decisions made could have far-reaching consequences. The initial stages of a conflict would likely involve a series of airstrikes and missile launches, with both sides vying for control of key territories and resources. Imagine a scenario where NATO launches a surprise attack on Russia, catching its military off guard. The Russian military, however, is not one to be underestimated. With its advanced defenses and ability to retaliate with precision-guided munitions, it would put up a fierce resistance. The involvement of NATO's military assets, including fighter jets and submarines, would significantly amplify the conflict's intensity and complexity. The Russian military's S-400 surface-to-air missile system would be a game-changer in this scenario. Capable of shooting down even the most sophisticated fighter jets, it would give NATO a run for its money. The Russian Navy submarine fleet, equipped with advanced torpedoes and cruise missiles, would also pose a significant threat to NATO's shipping lanes and supply chains. The first 72 hours would see an intense series of dogfights between NATO's fighter jets and the Russian Air Force. The skies would be filled with the sound of jet engines roaring as the two sides clash in a battle for air superiority. Meanwhile, on the ground, the Russian military would be busy deploying its advanced artillery systems, including the Tu-S-35 Koalitsiya SV, which can fire precision-guided shells at targets up to 70 kilometers away. As the conflict escalates, the Russian military would likely retaliate with a series of cyber attacks, targeting NATO's command and control systems, as well as its supply chains. This would be a critical moment in the conflict, as NATO's ability to coordinate its military operations would be severely impaired. The Russian military's advanced cyber warfare capabilities would give it a significant advantage, allowing it to disrupt NATO's decision-making processes and create chaos on the battlefield. The involvement of NATO's special forces would also be a key factor in the first 72 hours. These elite troops would be tasked with conducting raids behind enemy lines, gathering intelligence, and disrupting the Russian military's command and control systems. The Russian military, however, would be prepared for this eventuality, and its own special forces would be on high alert, ready to respond to any NATO incursion. As the clock ticks down on the first 72 hours, the question on everyone's mind would be, what's next? Will NATO be able to achieve its objectives and gain the upper hand? Or will the Russian military's advanced defenses and ability to retaliate prove too much for it? The answer would depend on a multitude of factors, including the effectiveness of NATO's military strategy, the Russian military's ability to adapt, and the level of support from other nations. The first 72 hours of a NATO-Russia conflict would be a critical period, marked by high-stakes military action, intense dogfights, and a battle for air superiority. As we continue to explore the implications of this scenario, we'll delve deeper into the military strategies, tactics, and technologies that would shape the course of the conflict. But for now, let's take a moment to reflect on the complexity and uncertainty of this scenario, and the far-reaching consequences that would follow. As the dust settles on the first 72 hours of a NATO-Russia conflict, what would be the long-term consequences for the world? The initial stages of the conflict would likely lead to a significant increase in global instability, with the potential for other nations to become involved and exacerbate the situation. Think of it like a snowball effect. As tensions escalate, the likelihood of other countries getting drawn in grows exponentially. This could result in a catastrophic chain reaction, with far-reaching implications for international relations and global security. The economic implications of such a conflict would be severe. Widespread disruptions to global trade would lead to a massive economic downturn, with markets plummeting and businesses struggling to stay afloat. The impact would be felt across the board, from small businesses to multinational corporations. In fact, a study by the International Monetary Fund estimated that a global conflict could lead to a 20% decline in global GDP. The human cost would be immeasurable, with millions of people losing their jobs, their livelihoods, and their sense of security. But the conflict would raise fundamental questions about the future of international relations, the role of NATO, and the very fabric of global security. Would this be the end of the post-Cold War era, and the beginning of a new era of great power rivalry? Or would it mark a turning point in the evolution of international relations, with a renewed focus on diplomacy and cooperation? The answers to these questions would have far-reaching implications for the future of our world and the people who inhabit it. As we reflect on the devastating consequences of a NATO-Russia conflict, it's clear that this is a scenario we must take seriously and work to prevent. But what can we do to prevent such a conflict? The international community must come together to find a peaceful solution, one that prioritizes diplomacy and dialogue over military action. This would require a concerted effort from governments, organizations, and individuals to raise awareness about the risks of conflict and promote a culture of peace and understanding. By working together, we can prevent a catastrophic conflict and create a more stable and secure future for all.